Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, it's your first time listening to the Win with Dice podcast. It's a podcast all about tabletop RPGs. Calvin and I like to take a casual approach to the hobby, and so we like to discuss on the show the games we run, and the games we play, and the cool, wonderful people that we get to share the hobby with. If you have never played tabletop RPGs, go find yourself a table, and if you are a player at someone's table, maybe it's your time to jump behind the GN screen.
Indeed. So we've got a Pathfinder session to get into today, another Pathfinder recap, because we love doing those, and I just ran a game recently in my Quest to the Fateseer campaign that I thought was really fun, and it came to an ending that has given me a lot to think about. Let's just say the least.
I feel like they always do. They always do.
True.
This is my favorite campaign, by the way, that we talk about on the channel. Not even mine. I like this one.
Well, there's always an open spot for you into this one. But before we get into all that fun stuff, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
Ah, yes, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by Calvin. Tell us what you learned.
Yeah, so this is something that we've talked about multiple times on here, but I feel like it bears repeating. Like, as far as using certain stats for a character goes in a game like Pathfinder or anything like that, I'm just using Pathfinder as an example because I've done it very recently. You can really just take these stats of something, file off the name, put the name of something else in there, and then really just start from there with that as the creature that you need. I don't want to get too specific in the thing that I did that with, just because I feel that'll come up later, maybe not in this episode, but I did have something that I just used the stats of a completely different kind of creature. Change basically just the name of it, but it had the right level and the right numbers that I needed, as well as some interesting abilities that I thought I could make some use of. And I didn't have to make a whole new creature. It's not super duper difficult to do that in Pathfinder, but when you're at the last hour that you have for prep and you have a sudden idea and you just need to roll with it, sometimes it's entirely just possible to take just the thing and just take the name off and put a different name on it.
Yeah.
I think that might be a bit easier when you're playing in person, though.
Yeah, it is, because the computer will just be like, you mean this? It'll have the name in the display of the chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, totally something I do all the time. Explicitly all the time. Spoiler alert to all of my players, you've basically been fighting hobgoblins this entire time.
Yes.
If it swung a sword, it was probably just a hobgoblin in disguise, under the hood. But yeah, no, especially for a game system like Pathfinder, I think that because it's such a a tightly calculated experience, so you kind of want to carry a theme of an enemy, but you don't really have the stat block available, or you don't want to do the math, right? So sometimes you just take the attack bonus or even the HP or some of the skills or whatever, right? Just something that's raw under the hood, has been calculated and tested by the game designers to be this is an appropriate challenge for this level, but then reskin it into a chair or something. It's a very angry chair. Right.
Yeah, I mean, even with Pathfinder as well, you can just also, if you need to, add a tag onto something after you change it. You can just say oh, this is a construct or whatever, in case that might come up for certain spell effects, if that's what you change it into. And then again, just continue using those different statistics.
Yeah, in this very specific chair analogy, right? It's...
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, folks. There's their Win with Dice Weekly Tip of the Week. Just don't worry about the outside of your enemies. Just the inside's what really matters.
Yeah,
I guess. Is that what it is? I don't think that was the lesson. But okay.
I'll say, yeah, sure. It's worded better than I would have. Yeah. Okay, Let's get into the recap of this Quest of the Fateseer session. So recently in this campaign, we've added a new player and a new player character by the name of Nell, who is joining Delorfek and Solo in their quest to help out my personal favorite NPC that I've ever created and run, Brima, who is this young gnome girl who was cursed from birth because she was meant to be part of this demon summoning ritual that went wrong, or right, depending on your perspective. And while the demon was not summoned into the material plane, it left sort of a imprint on her. Their quest at first was to help deliver her to this champion of Sarenrae, who turned out to just, instead of trying to protect Brima, or maybe trying to protect her in her own way, this champion, Fandrovo, instead was trying to capture Brima just to keep her locked up because of this demonic power that was in her and the risk that it presented. The party was able to rescue Brima, and they were trying to figure out basically how to save Brima from Fandrovo, who's still chasing them, as well as dealing with the cult that still exists around this original demon lord. So they've got a number of problems to solve, a number of pots on the oven, on the stove.
Yeah,
boiling,
what? I'm an idiot. I just realized that Brima can see fates, and that's why she's the fate seer.
Yeah.
Like I never questioned like the name, whatever. Like I just never questioned. I was like, oh, that sounds sick, right? Like I just never put two and two together until right now. So, shit.
Yeah, it was a very literal title for the campaign. I mean, all my campaign titles they're all two things. They are blank of blank, and they're very literal.
Yeah, it's like actions, right? It's like the thing that the players are doing. It's like the dungeons and the dragons. Go into dungeons and beat up some dragons, right? It's right there on the tin, folks. Like that's
exactly. A little like that, yeah. Very straightforward. Yeah. So she is indeed the Fate Seer because she's able to touch people and see the moment of their death. A thing that came up very importantly in this session.
Ooh, okay.
So we started off in the mining town of Dandaral, this dwarven town that has a mining company in it. And in some of those mines, some of the workers there were recently experiencing some sort of sickness that the party was able to put together was to do with abyssium poisoning, this sort of like magic radioactive mineral that the cult is also on the trail of. When they arrived here, they discovered that some members of the cult had gotten into the mine before them. They followed, and the cult leader attempted a calm conversation, but was smacked immediately by Delorfek. So he retreated, dropped a bunch of demons on the party, and we started the session with that demon attack. So for this combat, I wanted to have like a bunch of different types of enemies. So I had a Dretch, which is like this gross lumbering type of demon guy. They faced one before, but I made this one a bit bigger and I made it a bit stronger. Just because, they've already dealt with a normal one, so here's a better one. Yeah. I had a swarm of little imp guys, and I had them all being led by this thing called a Brimarak, which is like your classic curved horns, flaming sword type of demon dude. Also has some really cool spells that he didn't get to use, but maybe if another one comes back later, we'll see. There's actually a whole lot of demon options in Pathfinder.
Yeah, I know. They just made everything you could possibly think of. There's a Pathfinder demon. It was like a wide range, because I was also looking at the demons for the pirate campaign that we ran last week, and yeah, it was I was like, when did they get all these? This is so much.
There's one for every level between 1st and 10th, I think, at the very least there is.
Yeah, which is super cool, because it means that you could just have a whole campaign where you're just fucking boxing demons, man. Box your way out of hell, right?
Ooh. I'm gonna make note of that idea. But yeah, we started off with that fight. Nell was getting out their bow and firing at the Brimarak. They all ganged up on the Brimarak right away. So Nell fired a bow. Solo and Brima did daze spells, which I just failed. I did not expect to fail those because the Brimarak's will isn't too bad, but such as it is. And then Delorfek. So Delorfek is a fighter, and if you're someone who plays Pathfinder, fighters be fighting, and they put big numbers on the board. especially big damage numbers. And Delorphic, additionally, because at this point the party is well aware of how much of an issue demons are going to be for them personally, Delorphic has a weapon that also has cold iron in it.
Ooh.
So he was able to do 50 damage in one turn on this Brimmerak.
Damn, man, that's some solid fucking fighter numbers. To be fair, what level are your characters? Are your characters?
5th level.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Freaking Misty Fast Fingers fucking putting out damage with like 50 damage with one knife attack, and I'm like, how are you stabbing dudes so hard?
Right? One thing, actually, I want to mention this. If you're someone who plays Pathfinder 2, I would recommend using Foundry as your system. Admittedly, I haven't gone back to Roll20 in a while, and I haven't used anything like Fantasy Grounds or anything else like that. But one thing that Foundry does, it's a new feature, a recent update, I guess, is when you are putting characters into the encounter section, like you're basically saying, like, this person's in the encounter, you're rolling their initiative and stuff like that, it will tell you how much XP people will get after the combat.
Oh, it does it for you? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like it automatically calculates, like it takes the characters, the level of the player characters and the level of the enemies that you put in, and then it calculates like, here's how much XP this combat would be, here's the level of danger in this combat. Like it'll tell you if it's like extreme or severe or whatever.
Nice.
And those things tend to be like obviously with encounter building in Pathfinder, it is pretty tight most of the time. It can't really compensate for like a game where people roll a whole lot of really good rolls, as well as, you know, just having a fighter in there. I feel like fighters skew things.
I think fighters are like mad necessary though. I think fighters are not necessary when, you know, you're fighting a bunch of like things that are lower level than you. Like you have lots of low level dudes, like it didn't matter who's gonna touch those dudes, they're gonna explode, right? But fighters matter specifically. Like only the fighting man can reliably hit dudes who are higher level than other people, right? Like think about it, like their AC is like incremental, like every step higher, because the range is between like -4 and +4 in level, right? So somebody who, if you're fighting at the max +4 of your range, that's like 4 points on the D20. That's like a lot. That's like, what was that, like 20%? That's 20%.
Yeah.
Less likely you're gonna hit. And like the fighter is the only one that gets mastery pretty quickly, and the only one that gets like randomly +2 to whatever weapon they're using. So actually that 4% difference equals out with the fighter's 4% difference, right, at most given ranges. So the fighting man is actually the dude that you want tackling those big things. So just hey, a little bit of knowledge out there for players.
Some strats.
Some strats. Fighters are good. Really, really good, especially when the fucking chips are down. Like those motherfuckers like show up.
Yeah, I really like how fighters work in, like, as much as I will complain about the fighters in either of my campaigns, I really like how fighters in Pathfinder 2e are just, like, they're not that generic basic class that they kind of were in first edition. And that they, from what I hear, kind of are in D&D 5th edition. Like, they're a powerful class in their own right, and they have abilities that are unique to themselves.
Yeah, no, I think Pathfinder did a good job, especially I think with some of the like low level abilities, like just like dual striking people, or like sudden charge is a big one that's really good. But it just feels like every turn the fighters are doing something different than just, I just walk up and do my basic attack.
Yeah. I mean, even something as simple as like having attack of opportunity be limited to certain classes, like fighter or barbarian or whatever.
Like, I think they capture specifically the fantasy of, like, the fucking hero dude, right? Like, the fantasy of the dude with the sword and the shield, you know, the main character guy usually, right? Like, just one, you know what I mean? Like, they have really, like, honed in on that, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's real good. So Delorfic was getting in there, and then at the end of the first round of combat, I kind of threw another complication in there because I had rocks falling due to how the cult was sort of digging into this mine very quickly and not being very safe about it. It was beginning to cause a cave-in. So basically at the end of every round, I had everybody on the field roll a certain check, and they would just use that to avoid some damage. So they had a fight going on, and they had rocks falling on them. So basically we ended up with Delorfic right in front of the Brimarack, directly in melee combat, with the Dretch at a distance, just trying to throw some spells at him. Those little swarming guys, they went after the rest of the party, who had arrived in this mine with like a minecart. So they all moved to surround the minecart, doing the best they could to try to attack the party. I don't think any of them rolled above a 10 for their attacks. So,
damn.
even the one that turned invisible to try to sneak up on Nell, while Nell would be like flat-footed to the attack because it's from invisibility, rolled like I think like a 5 or something. So
That's so funny. It's just a bad day to show up to work, I guess. Like
apparently. So yeah, Nell was feeling pretty confident and was just like to solo, like, you have these insects here, right? Because Nell was dodging pretty well, because Nell has a pretty high AC. And also managed to like skewer one on a rapier. The Dretch was again just keeping its distance. Solo and Brima were dealing with those little imp guys. Brima, I need to probably just take another look at the spells that she has prepared, because she doesn't have a whole lot of one action options, especially once she's like in the right position. She doesn't have a whole ton of options there. So I'll look at that. She did take out her dagger though, and she did throw it. So good for her.
damn, man. Prima out here, man.
She also failed, like, in that combat at least, she failed every check to dodge away from the falling rocks.
Oh.
Like,
she's too focused on murder. Don't worry, like, that's how it is sometimes.
yeah, I don't know, it's just really funny that the smallest target is the one who got hit each time.
It's because she has the littlest feet. She can't dodge.
Fair, I guess that makes sense. So yeah, Delorfic was able to chop through this Brimarack, causing it to like spray this boiling blood that he did have to just make like a dodge against, or a reflex save against. And he was able to move on to dealing with the Dretch that was able to like sort of protect itself and raise its AC a bit. Although thanks to the rocks falling and the damage that was already done to it, it was not able to escape, and it just kind of like died under a rock. Again, there was like an
What a way to go. Just got a Looney Tune death, damn.
Yeah, kind of. It was just like protected itself from Delorfic, like, you can't touch me, even though he totally could, and then bonk.
Bonk.
Yeah, Nell was trying to find the invisible imp creature. Solo was going after another one, and he used the daze spell on it, but added an insult to it. Which, you know, that's not I don't know if that's necessarily how daze works, but I really like the idea of just adding literal insult to injury there.
Nice.
But yeah, the rocks began to fall more as the party was mopping up the last of these demons. And Nell had like this very, like, one of them was trying to escape down a tunnel, these, like, the flying bat-like imp creatures. And Nell had like this very serious and violent, but like also very calm look on their face as, you know, just took out the last one with this precision bow shot. Which, who knows, that might be important.
Ooh.
But at this point, as the mine was collapsing, I thought the party was just going to try to escape, but they did also want to try to track the cultists down, which is fair. So, you know, they rolled some checks, both to escape and to follow their enemies. This was the point where... I mean, it was happening in the previous battle, but here additionally, like, there was like a ton of natural 20 rolls in this game. I think the most I've seen in any single session, actually. Tim, who people may know as the person who's been running the Unintended Consequences and Lost Mine of Phandelver campaigns we've talked about on here, and who plays Delorfic, he actually counted all the nat 20s that were rolled after the game. And Delorfic had like 9. Um, Nell had Nell had 5 actually, because he counted 4, but there was one secret roll that was a nat 20 for Nell. Solo and Brima got 3 and 2, and then between all the enemies over the course of the session, there were 3 more for them. And this isn't even counting all the crits that were, because in Pathfinder 2e, you can get a crit if you roll 10 over the difficulty for a check, and we just have like a bunch more of those.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. I don't know. I guess you guys used up all your nat 20s for the campaign. That's it. It's over.
I mean, that would be good for me. I'd be fine with that. But yeah, there was a whole lot of nat 20s in this session. I just really enjoyed that. The dice were really nice to the players this week. Or this session, I should say. But because of that, they were able to track down some of the cultists, and they were able to, disrupt some of the Abyssium that was being transferred, so that is one thing that I will have to also calculate into the secret plans that are happening off screen. They have less of the thing that they need. But one other thing they did notice is that the leader that had summoned these demons that Delorfic attacked, and his closest lieutenant, this young gnome girl of similar age to Brima, that had pulled him out of that combat, they could see that those two had basically teleported out of the tunnels, just basically by tracking their footsteps and seeing that there was like a half footstep in the middle of the tunnel. They did a quick combat with some of these cultist guys, just some generic goons. I did want to mention though, Pathfinder 2 I find is pretty good with generic goon guys. Like even basic guys, like just a couple of level 2 bandits, they will have like different abilities depending on if they're different types of bandits. Like one might have a sneak attack or something, and one might have a like intimidating strike or something like that, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And even some level 2 guys might have like some interesting spells. So, it's pretty easy to, and again, like we had mentioned before with the tip of the week, if you want to just like file the name off something and use it for something else, it's pretty easy, especially at like 5th level as well. You can throw in a few dudes who are basically generic goons, but they might have 1 or 2 interesting abilities that they can apply. Especially something like Attack of Opportunity, which not every creature has.
Yeah, it kind of keeps it fresh, even though they're just humanoid enemies, right? You kind of just want to have a little bit of diversity, so there's combat isn't just like the same.
Yeah, exactly. They took out a couple of guys. Delorfic and Brima were actually the ones who managed to land the final blows on those guys. And then they got out of the tunnels. At this point, Theodora Fodaros, who is this elf lady who basically runs the mining company in this area, she had arrived because word of a collapse in the mine spread pretty quickly. And Theodora is kind of a character that... So, in this campaign, and it was back when you were playing with us as well, you did meet one of her brothers, Simon.
Oh, no way.
He was the one that assigns you to go steal a sword from their other brother, Alvios's vault.
Yeah.
There's some stuff with Theodora that I don't know if we'll get into, but she's kind of a bit more put together than her brothers, who are like last time you saw them, they were all like wrapped up in like stealing this ancient sword back and forth from each other.
Right.
And Theodora is kind of a bit more responsible than those two, but I mean, bit of a spoiler alert, it's only because she's not there, to be honest. Like, if she was near them, she would be just as bad, if not worse.
Funny.
But the party is fortunate enough to be around the responsible version of Theodora, who, when they saw, at first Nell was just trying to act cool and uninjured. Delorfic yelled out, "Where the bastard gnomes?" Because a few more of the cultists had escaped. Theodora instead tried to direct them like out of there and get them into her office so she could talk to them while she dealt with the whole mine collapse and seeing what the damage was, if people were safe and things like that. So inside her office, they had a bit of time to themselves. They did some investigating, some talking. They noted that Theodora made notes of the things that had happened over the past few days, including some descriptions of the different people that she had met. including the party and including the gnomes, like the gnome cult that has showed up before. I feel like I may have forgotten to mention this, but the demon cult is entirely made up of gnomes because gnomes don't get enough love. Yeah, just a description of them, as well as the name of their leader, who seemed to be named Lantix. And then there was a conversation of just like, how much should we say to her? Because we don't want to mention that we're being hunted by the fuzz. According to Dolorifek. Nell was thinking that the party could claim that they're good citizens. And Sola was like, well, we're good as far as Brima's concerned. And Brima was like, well, yeah, I think you're all good. Which, oh man. Which Nell just kind of had a very silent reaction to. I'm really enjoying Nell as a character. Because there's so much mystery there that I'm really looking forward to the reveal of.
What? Oh man, super secret. I'm actually evil, but with a heart of gold. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. All these like, maybe I was a bad guy once, and like I don't want to go back to those times.
Maybe. But yeah, so Theodora did show up. Basically wanted to know, what the hell happened down there. So she was asking about like all the Abyssium and stuff. She was asking about what those gnome cultists may have wanted. She said that some of the workers did see some of them escaping like into the city proper, or the town, I should say. But one thing she was definitely wondering is like what the party actually is, because it's clear. She did say specifically like, you guys aren't just like mine experts or mineral experts or anything like that. And Dolorifek was like, oh, I'm glad you noticed that we're more than just our jobs.
Nice.
But Nell suggested that they're like a demonology expert or demon cultist hunter, and that the party was just trying to help them like follow this group, which Theodora didn't believe. But it was clear that the party did something to help like her workers and her people that she cares about. So because of that, she did mention that so there are like a sort of city guard patrol that work, basically like a group, like a town guard. They have information they have wanted posters and stuff. And she mentioned that upon hearing that some sort of gnome cult had done something in the mine, that some of the city guard had told her that they were looking for another young gnome girl who may have been traveling with some companions, and this gnome girl had the same description as Brima, which did cause a little discomfort at first. But then she sort of continued on saying that, she clearly doesn't think that the party are saying everything that's going on, but whatever they did was something to keep her people safe, so she was just giving them this warning for free, basically.
Nice.
She also recommended that they stay at the Quenched Quarry Inn, because it's very popular with the miners, so it's a good place to blend into a crowd. And I do love my alliterative names. So we get to the Quenched Quarry Inn. It's like this, one of the unique things about it is that it's sort of decorated with like old mining equipment that's been remade into lanterns and decorations and stuff.
Yeah, you know what? Like, you need to like put out something where it's like all of the inns and bars and places to hang out in your world, because it feels like there's a lot, and then rate them on like fun or like food or like service and like what's Yelp. Cool about them. Yeah, like do like a Yelp. It should just be, oh my gosh, like that should be someone's job where they just like like Michelin stars or whatever for inns. It's like
that is genuinely very funny. I kind of want to do that. Because, yeah, we actually had, like, previously in this session, and it's going to come up in, like, another game I'm actually planning to run. Like, there was that one inn that the party stayed at for a bit, and they had, like, really good chicken. Like, that was their main thing. It's just, like, in the Yelp review, the food gets 5 stars. I actually really like that. Yeah, I think this place has some good ambiance. But yeah, once they got there, the miners, like, they had obviously heard about what happened, so, like, they did recognize the party, but most of them were just, like, offering them drinks after hearing that, something dangerous would happen. Like the how much they knew kind of varied, but at most they knew like there was some sort of collapse down there, and this group of people was down there trying to do something helpful, and they were able to get out alive. So most of what happened was that a lot of these guys were just offering them free drinks, which they gratefully accepted. They made plans for staying overnight, and then Nell took Brima out to have sort of a private conversation. As they were talking back and forth, Brima started to explain basically what happened to her at her birth, how she was meant to be this vessel for a demon lord, and it didn't happen, and she was left with this connection, basically, and some gears were turning in Nell's head. And then Nell kind of adds something that the player themselves is wondering, which is, like, last session, Brima was just, like, watching them sleep, basically. And at the time, Brima was just like, oh, I'm just checking on everyone, making sure everybody's okay and doing fine and stuff. Like, clearly not giving an answer. But pressing on, this is where Nell found out that Brima could see the death of people she touches, but didn't see anything at all when she touched Nell, which...
Spooky!
Yep. Yeah. Which kind of caused Nell to freeze for a moment, which Brima did pick up on, and she just kind of said, that with everything that's been going on, she couldn't really deal with any more mysteries. And then at this point, if I recall, Nell's player, like, literally flipped a coin to decide whether to confess certain things or not.
Ooh, okay.
And the result of that being that Nell didn't give a very direct answer to what Brima was wondering about, but suggested, like, they may be able to live forever, which Brima thought sounded pretty lonely.
Whoa. Whoa!
There's some stuff going on there. There's just some stuff going on there. There's some stuff cooking in the pot there that I hope people are... I mean, so far everyone's enjoying it. I don't exactly know where everything's going to go, because I don't know how much is going to be revealed about what at what point. But at this point, this is just, like, I'm just relying on, like, obviously Brima did see or not see something. So that's, like, at that point, that was like, I was trying to just only reveal that without saying too much, because I don't want to reveal anything about this character, like, that the player isn't ready to reveal yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the other shoe is going to drop on that pretty soon. But yeah, the two of them just continued on. Brima mentioned that if anything happened to Nell, there would be no one to bake for the group, which would be very bad. But they returned to the inn. Nell went off to play some music in private, and Brima stayed up to chat with Delorfek and Solo about what happened in the mine and everything, and how she got hit by a lot of rocks. Solo offered to help teach her how to dodge things better, asking if she was able to dance. Brima said that she never really danced much when she was younger, which got some sort of, like, awes and, signs of pity. But she was quickly like, but, she could do other things, because, she has really good penmanship. So if they need to write a scroll to fight demons, then she can definitely do that. Yeah, I don't know. I really like playing Brima. It's like a whole other person when I'm doing Brima stuff. I don't know how to explain it. She's just like an entire entity that occupies my mind somehow and only comes out when I'm playing this game. But night came on, and we... Of course, I had everybody roll in some perception checks at minuses because they are sleeping. But Solo and Brima both rolled natural 20s in their sleep. So they, of course, noticed that Lantix, this cult leader, was basically outside their door. So Solo initiated this plan where he pretended to be sleepwalking as Lantix entered the room. And then Solo starts singing Bohemian Rhapsody as he's still, like, trying to act like he's sleepwalking.
What? Okay.
Which was a bold strategy. But Lantix entered the room, and both Solo and Brima could see that, he was being followed by that other young gnome girl and a couple of goons, a couple of generic goons. Lantix was able to notice that Brima was awake, and then Solo started singing louder, which got Dolorifex's attention. Unfortunately, Nell was too fast asleep, apparently. So when Dolorifex arrived, Lantix was, he certainly recognized the person who just hit him in the face. So he basically tried to start offering a conversation instead, trying to explain the situation, at least from this demon cult's perspective. Additionally mentioning that while the party could probably handle whatever he was able to summon, the other people who were sleeping in the inn at the time probably wouldn't be able to handle a demon attack. Basically given the threat that, he would drop a demon on the other people here if he didn't get what he wanted.
Jeez, dude. What a dick.
Yeah. Yeah. Not much to say about that. But he did explain basically how, from the cult's perspective at least, and he was just basically talking about history that had, occurred. How, many years ago, centuries ago even, there were gnomish lands that had been taken by invaders who didn't, care for the forests as well as they should. Leading to I didn't get into the specifics of it because he did kind of get interrupted because, well, not interrupted, I should say. I just didn't get into the very specifics of it. But there's certain settled areas on the world map that were once, where gnomes had settled down but had been taken over and are now less foresty and more like towns and cities and things like that.
Interesting. That's a weird angle to come at the fact that you're literally summoning demons, dude.
Well, his intention was the cult's intention at least, was to summon this demon lord to essentially reset the realm by burning it down and starting over.
Okay.
Basically just, take an eraser to the whole thing and then start redrawing.
Interesting. Just
that the eraser is on fire. At this point, Dolorifex went to go wake Nell, just banging on Nell's door, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to bother with a perception check. You are awake at this point. And Nell said that we need someone with... Dolorifex said we need someone with talking skills, leading to the back and forth of Dolorifex saying, they want to summon the demon, and Nell is like, isn't that what we're trying to prevent? And Dolorifex like, yes. And then Nell says, so why are we still talking? And Dolorifex like, we're stalling because you were asleep. So, but one interesting thing that Lantix further explained is that it may be possible to summon Gorzinia through Brima without destroying Brima completely. That they have found a way to sort of contain a demon's power within a person. And he sort of gestured at the younger gnome girl as he was explaining this. But they would need someone stronger to handle the power of an entire demon lord. Obviously referring to Brima, although the other young gnome girls seemed bothered by that statement.
Dark Brima, I see.
What? No. She could be anything.
The darkest Brima.
Yeah, man. There but for the grace of Pharasma go I. But yeah, so he was suggesting that the ritual could be done and Brima might be able to survive this whole burning reset process. Nell tried to reach out to the younger gnome girl, basically ignoring Lantix when he tried to intervene, just kind of questioning if this is what she actually wanted and what she actually wanted to be. The girl said that she is what her destiny needs her to be, or something to that effect. Lantix tried to interrupt again and was told to shut up very forcefully. And Nell said, very importantly, that they know two things in this world. One is that destiny ain't worth shit, and two is that no demon is going to help you. And Solo...
What? Hype.
What?
Hype. Just hype from this. It's crazy. That's like this is the most badass thing ever. Bro, what? Hype.
Yeah, Nell's so good.
The fucking theme song fucking comes in.
Oh, I should have played the theme song. Yeah, Solo also tried to help with that, just showing that there could be, more to life than working with the demon cult to summon a demon. Which included an attempt to dance with Brima to basically show that, maybe you could try something fun, like dancing instead. Although Brima was just like, I see the point you're trying to make, but I don't know if this is helping right now. But I did have everyone roll a perception check, and Nell got a nat 20 because everybody was getting nat 20s, and was able to see that the girl was affected by this, but buried it pretty quickly as Lantix interrupted again, basically saying that he was just trying to negotiate with them. It clearly wasn't working, so he switched tactics, essentially saying that if he wasn't able to take Brima with him now, he was just going to drop a demon onto the other patrons of the inn if he didn't get what he wanted. So obviously, negotiations failed. Lantix did summon the demon on the lower floor of the inn while everyone was resting on the upper floor, basically. So there were sounds of chaos from below as combat started. So getting into this fight, the generic goons were handled pretty easily. And additionally, I wasn't super worried about those guys. I just kind of wanted more numbers in the fight. And I really again, because with Pathfinder, you have a few options of just generic level 2 dudes that you can change things for. And then just make them operate as you need to. So, as far as those guys go, one of the types of guys has a whole bunch of harm spells, which are basically heal spells but evil. And the other one is more of a bruiser, but they have attack of opportunity and other damaging stuff like sneak attack. So, they're generic goons, but they have stuff.
Yeah.
But they were taken care of pretty easily, leaving Lantix and this other gnome girl. However, once Lantix was injured enough in the fight, he whispered to the girl in Abyssal that Nell was able to pick up on, and he said, "Arya, we need to leave." Essentially revealing the girl's name. So Arya cast Darkness, and my intent was to have them basically move and then teleport.
Oh no.
Note how I said my intent.
Why? Why is it always I cast Darkness to try and escape, and it never I bet it didn't work.
You would be correct. You would be unsurprised. My intent was that, she cast Darkness and then they move, but she's the one who also has the teleport spell. So at that point in the fight, they were kind of separate because she cast Darkness. Lantix was moving away from her because that's where people were crowding up. And he was going to just basically move towards the stairs. And then the goal was for her to get there and then they teleport out. However, Lantix had a Dolorfek in his way, who was rolling pretty good on the flat checks you got to make to perceive people in darkness. And this was heightened darkness that even works against dark vision.
Wow, even deeper darkness. Ooh.
Yeah, advanced darkness.
Advanced darkness. Nice.
So yeah, he was basically trying to get to Arya and stay away from the party, but because he was being found pretty easily, they did end up getting kind of separated. So he ended up basically ended up stuck in the bathroom of the upper floor.
Jeez. Arya
tried to reach him, but got knocked out by Dolorfek with a really good bonk. Lantix hilariously tried to escape out of a window. Unfortunately for him, he was not able to squeeze out of it. He very much failed that check, and I kind of wished that bad guys could have hero points. Because...
Why'd you make him roll? You're invoking the bones, man.
I mean, that's why.
No. That's why. You never invoke the bones unless... This is exactly why shit happens, because, fucking... And it's I don't know, let's see if he can run out. It's yeah, he can run out. He's the bad guy.
I mean, he had to make a check to squeeze through. He could have done it. But he didn't.
Okay, fair, fine, whatever.
So then he ended up getting grabbed by Dolorfek Um, Instead of I thought Delorvic was just gonna hit him right away, but smartly he could have survived that attack and then tried to escape again. So Delorvic just grabbed him, and before he could get away, Nell moved in, stabbed him in the throat, just adding, "I told you to shut up." And Lantix tried to speak, but only managed to cough up a bit of blood before falling limp. And there was more chaos from downstairs. So there was a bit of a split up there. Brima and Nell stayed at the top floor just to deal with moving Lantix and tying up Arya so she couldn't escape if she woke up, while Delorfek and Solo went to deal with the big old demon that Lantix summoned. So because the party had left it alone for several rounds, essentially that thing had just wrecked its way through the lower floor. There were a bunch of people who were obviously either dead or dying or injured in some way. But Delorfek got in there, and with some backup from Solo, he was able to chop through and behead the demon before collapsing onto the ground, because he did get hit pretty bad by some debris that was thrown by the demon, as well as this persistent damage that he was getting from a earlier spell. So he was pretty injured. I think 20-something health, if I could recall. I'm not really sure, but he was pretty injured.
Yeah.
So he basically was shouting for a healer as he collapsed onto the floor. Theodora did show up with the city guard. She had a crossbow that she raised as she came in, but then she saw that it was just the party there. And she did show up in time to see the demon that was summoned just collapsing into demon goo. Because of I don't know if that's how demons are supposed to work, but it was a summon. Yeah.
They should just explode like tokusatsu monsters. Just fucking just boom.
I think the higher level ones are gonna do that.
all of the low budget pyrotechnics from those fucking shows.
Yeah, maybe they'll do that in the future. The guards, because again, they did have a description of Brima and her associates. They were starting to take notice until Theodora basically sent them out to secure the perimeter and look for the rest of the cultists who may have escaped. Basically just getting them out of there.
Yeah.
Because this is the second time in a day that the party has done something to help protect the people who work for her. Again, though, Theodora's been pretty cool, especially this session. She was pretty cool because she's pretty good at reading people a lot of the time, and she has a good read on the party. But the thing she cares about most is just the people who work for and with her, and that's her priority. And if you're doing something for her, then she'll do something for you. But again, to be clear, it's only because she doesn't have her brother's bad influence here, which I don't know. I hope I get to play with someday.
Well, when you go back home and you see family, you just kind of get right back into being that family dynamic.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things that currently only exists in my head, but it would be really fun to do that. But yeah, Delorfek mentioned he just wanted a drink, and Theodora was just take whatever you want, and she gestured at the bar that was kind of smashed up, but there were still some bottles, there was still some ale that they could get. So we kind of finished off with Delorfek and Solo sharing a drink, while Nell snuck off upstairs, followed by Brima, and the two of them went to keep an eye on Arya, who was sort of stirring a bit in her unconscious state. And that's where we finished off, and now I gotta figure out what to do with Arya there, because I kind of figured between the two of them, Lantix would probably die first if anyone was going to. And then Arya would just escape on her own, and then I would have her deal with some stuff off screen. I didn't expect her to be knocked out first, and then Lantix killed, because her goal at the time was still get to Lantix and get out. So she got knocked out, and then Lantix died, but she's unconscious, so she can't teleport herself away. So, they also tied up her mouth, so she couldn't do any speaking verbal parts of spells. So I guess we're going to have her hanging around for a bit.
Interesting. Okay, I mean, this is a cool turn for the party. I want to see what's gonna happen. I guess they have good Brima and bad Brima.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I had some, like, I was just watching Ahsoka recently, and I really liked the characters of the couple, like the two villains on there, Balin and Shin, and they're like this pair of, they're not exactly Sith, but they're definitely not Jedi. They're bad guys with lightsabers, for sure. But I just kind of like the connection those two had, and I really like the character of Shin, even though we don't know too much about her. And I was gonna try to channel some of that through Arya, and maybe Lantix a bit, but I guess without Lantix around, I'll see how that develops. But
cool.
Yeah, there's the party already knows some stuff with her. She definitely wasn't very happy of hearing, so specifically that she was not the one that the cult wanted. Hearing that Brima was stronger than her, she was kind of staring daggers at Brima the entire time she was here, and only looking at other people when they were talking directly to her. So yeah, there is some stuff going on there that the party will have to deal with, and who knows what that could be. I'm glad I have some time to figure it out.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun session.
Yeah, it was really fun. I love the sessions that end with me having to figure something out. I'm glad the combats worked out. At this point, like, I know the party's gonna do a lot of damage to a demon especially, so I feel like I can be a bit more flexible with what kind of creatures I throw at them. Because again, like, I have a ton of options, and I could also make them, like, stronger or weaker. Like, I can bump them up and down by one level pretty easily. So I have a pretty big range of things I could possibly use, as well as like a handful of just guys with different kinds of spells or different abilities. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do with a demon cult, especially if you narratively add a way that they can just summon a demon whenever they need to.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there should be just rules that if you're fighting a demon cult, demons just show up. Like, I feel like that should just be baked into the rules, dog. Like, this is the flavor. It's right here. Like,
yeah, pretty much. Like, it's a lot of diverse types of enemies I could throw at the party if I want to have an interesting combat.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where things are. So, again, they do have this new person who I guess will be hanging around for a bit. We'll figure things out. There is some stuff that may be happening off screen, that some certain clocks that are ticking. I have a lot to figure out at this point. Like, I especially to figure out with the cults, because again, I thought, like, if anyone's gonna go down, it'll be Lantix. I didn't expect her to be knocked out first, because then she didn't leave on her own, and now she's still here. I don't know what the cult's gonna do yet. I'm still working on that.
Well, I feel like you should just have like a better plan than casting darkness to try and run away. Like, that was it, right? Like, that's actually what threw you off.
Maybe. Like, but they had a way out, and the darkness was supposed to help. It just didn't.
Calvin, like, the amount of times where you cast darkness and then they just weren't able to escape. Like,
but one day it might work. It's like but, like, I don't know, it was just like, she casts darkness and then teleports out. It's just that, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're completely right. This isn't even the first time this happened. But it's, like, such a good spell.
It always changes the course of, like, the whole campaign. Like, every time these darkness fucking elaborate ruses don't pay off, they're like, fuck, now I have to figure this out.
Yeah, she should have just left on her own. I don't know. Well, I'll see where it goes. Who knows? Look, I'm pretty sure darkness is a really good spell. It just also, relies on luck a bit.
For other people, not for you, man.
True. Especially after, like, the session in the Crown of Dragons campaign where having something obscured was, like, so super frustrating and kind of got the party killed. But here it just basically meant nothing.
True.
But yeah, that was the course of that session, and I'm sure by the time this episode comes out I'll have more stuff figured out, but right now I've got a lot of space to work with. um, as well as a new campaign that I'm working on that I'm sure we'll talk about at some point in the future.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, I actually made a whole city setting thing that I think I'll send it to you if you want to take a look at it. But I'm really excited to do some stuff with it. But that's a whole other episode unto itself. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave the recap for now. I'm excited to get back to this, and I need to give myself some time to think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's a lot of spinning plates to get to. Ramon, is there anything you want to ask about it, or should we roll into the outro for this episode?
Let's go to the outro.
All right. Well, thanks everybody out there listening for stopping by and hanging out on the podcast. If you want to hear more episodes, just check out the channel. We've got a whole playlist of podcast episodes for you to give a listen to, as well as some weekly live gaming streams. By the time this is out, Mass Effect Andromeda will have started. Also, I thought I was done with Alan Wake, but there are like 2 other whole levels that were in a different menu that I didn't know about, so continuing Alan Wake. There was also a spin-off game that was released exclusively for Xbox Live Arcade that is on PC as well, so probably playing that, so we are not done with Alan Wake. And of course, we have Baldur's Gate 3 on Fridays. And also putting up a bunch of like shorts from the gaming streams, so if you want to see some small moments from those, definitely go check those out because they're pretty fun as well. Also, if you're into the Lancer RPG, we've got links to a whole bunch of Lancer third-party writers and creators linked below, so definitely go and check out their stuff. And if you're into superheroes and other different kinds of tabletop RPGs, I would recommend checking out the Untold Stories Project channel. You can find me over there on Wednesdays in the Freedom League Dark game that is coming to the mid-season finale. I think by the time this comes out, it will be the same day as the mid-season finale, so definitely swing by there to see where we're going to be left off, what cliffhanger we will be left with for a few months before they start their season of just different kinds of one-shots and games and other systems. There'll be some spooky games, there'll be some holiday games, be a whole bunch of fun. But that's all I've got for now. Alright, for all of our demon-slaying GMs and players out there, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.